All right, let's talk about the Chicago Bears fresh off a big victory, of course, on Thursday Night Football, improving their win-loss total, but also helping their advantage for the long term as well. Of course, they made the trade with the Carolina Panthers this past offseason to get the Carolina Panthers draft pick in the upcoming 2024 NFL draft. And obviously, the Carolina Panthers losing helps the Bears. Let's go into the details about that. Then we'll talk about it on the other side. Miles, if you throw out the report first from CNN, an interesting place for a sports report, but they got it nonetheless. The Chicago Bears edged past the Carolina Panthers in a low-scoring affair on Thursday, a win which boosts their chances at the top pick in next year's NFL draft. After the Bears traded the number one overall pick in last year's NFL draft to the Panthers, a selection that proved to be quarterback Bryce Young, in exchange for a bounty of picks, including Carolina's 2024 first-round pick. The Panthers' woeful start to the season and their league worst record of 1-8 means Chicago has an excellent chance at the number one pick in the 2024 NFL draft. In fact, Miles, if you go up to a graphic, we have a model showing the odds of the Chicago Bears getting the number one overall pick in next year's NFL draft. You can see the Carolina Panthers are second right now in terms of percentage. That, of course, is the Bears pick at 32. The Bears are at 2%. So you look at a 34% chance to get the number one overall pick in the draft. They also, of course, are going to end up most likely with 2 picks in the top 5. When you factor in the fact that the Bears going into the 2024 offseason have the 5th most available cap space of any team in football, I think there's one clear message to be made. The Chicago Bears are set up incredibly well for long-term success. And that's a credit to their front office. And look, not every move they've made has worked out. The Chase Claypool trade, I think, jumps out in front, clear as obvious. But when you look at a lot of the moves they've made, it's clear they're in a position to build off their success going forward. And I think if they make the smart move and move off of Eberflus, I think it's the right move to make at this point. They seem to be not significantly better than they were doing last season. They're in a position to attract the best coach they could possibly get. They're going to be the ideal situation in the entire market. Every team, their selling point to coaches usually, we've got a great roster, a good solid roster. We're just looking for the right coach. Think the Denver Broncos last offseason when they brought in Sean Payton. Or their selling point is we've got a lot of draft capital. You're going to come in here and build a team. That's like the Houston Texans last year when they brought in DeMeco Ryans. The Chicago Bears next offseason have a chance to sell to any coach, both situations. That's incredibly rare. A lot of draft capital, a chance to build a team, a lot of salary cap space, a chance to build a team. No matter how you look at it, this is a team that's set up incredibly well for the future, especially when you look at the fact they've got a talented roster, young players on both sides of the ball, the addition of Montez Sweat as well. I think the Bears are actually set up very well for the long term. I know we're in the middle of the season now. It's hard to think too much about the future, but I think the Bears' future prospects are looking pretty good. Myas, I'm curious what your thoughts are on the Bears situation as we look towards the long term, but Chicago fans obviously coming off a victory, a win's a win over the Carolina Panthers. Give us your feeling in the comment section below about where the Bears are going. Do you think they're heading in the right direction? Do you think they should stick with Matt Eberflus? Give us your thoughts on what the next big Bears move needs to make if they want to get back to relevancy, which I think they're heading to. At least they'll have the opportunity to do so. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. But Miles, what do you think of the Bears right now and how everything is situating up for them going into 2024 and potentially beyond?
Yeah, Nick, I think it looks really good because not only, like you alluded to, did they pick up Montez Sweat, but they signed him to an extension. He's got the deal done, so that's pretty good. You got young Noah Sewell coming in at the linebacker role. He's already played very well in limited snaps on his part, so that is looking good. You made the move at linebacker. Now have a young guy coming in potentially who can play well. Jalen Johnson still on the team. There's potential to lock him up. There's a lot of really good options on this team. If you keep everything together, like you said, there's really good core of players on this Bears team. And that would be great, but it's even better because of the opportunity the Bears have with the draft picks they have. They have their own draft pick, which will probably be a relatively high draft pick. They have the Panthers pick, who, as we see on the graphic, they're 32% odds just behind the Cardinals, but the Cardinals have Kyler Murray coming back now, and I would hope that gets them a couple of wins. You can only imagine that, they start winning a little more. We know what the Panthers are. The Panthers are what they are. There's no big changes coming with them. So I imagine that they slip in front of the Cardinals as the first place odds to get that number one overall pick after a few games with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. I would imagine they win a few games there as well. So I think that looks really good for the Bears, just the situation in front of the Panthers as far as getting that number one draft pick. It really does look like they have themselves positioned. Like you said, they have top 5 cap space. Everything looks really, really good for the Bears. There's so many options. Justin Fields, he may not be the guy for them for the future. And the great news is, if he's not, they have so many options to pivot off very quickly. They're really not stuck on any which way. They can move off the coach if they decide to. The Bears are just in a great position in the middle of this rebuild where they have a team and they have a lot of ammunition to go whatever way they decide is the right direction. And I think that is the best place to be because you're not tied
Well,
down any which way, Nick.
yeah, and I agree with you. I just think the biggest concern to me is there's going to be a temptation to hold on to Everflus, right? And maybe they have a magical finish to the year. I'm not, discounting that. But where we sit right now, they're going to end up what, maybe 5-12, 6-11 ish, around that record
Probably.
wise. So you're dealing with back-to-back double-digit loss seasons, right? You've got a defensive head coach, which history says isn't the most easy way to get a lot of victories in the NFL right now. It's obviously an offensive game, a quarterback's game. You want more of an offensive guy at the helm. Obviously, everyone was, kind of a little shell shocked from the Nagy era, but the reality is that kind of guy, a guy who comes from the offense and knows the quarterback, is generally the way to go in terms of long-term success. As long as I think they don't fall into temptation for keeping Everflus for one more year and they go out and sell themselves again to the entire coaching market, right? Hey, listen, we've got a young, talented team. We've got some quality veterans. We've got a lot of cap space. We've got a lot of draft capital, right? We've got a number one receiver in DJ Moore. We've got a couple other good receivers. We got a great young backfield full of a lot of playmakers. We're solid at tight end. We've got a GM that's not afraid to pull the trigger and spend money and make trades if the opportunity presents itself. Again, I think any quality head coach, any up and coming head coach is going to see that as an opportunity to want to jump on it. I think if the Bears present themselves that way as early as they can right out of the gate in the offseason, I think they'll get their pick of their litter in terms of the best coaching candidates, and that'll set them up really well for the future. And when it comes to the Justin Fields question, I think we just got to understand that it's just not going to be a great fit unless they come in and bring in a guy that can completely turn his career around. And when you have two picks in the top five, I'm going to be honest, as great as this upcoming quarterback class is, you almost feel like it's time to move off the field and try another guy, right? It just feels like that kind of vibe. Obviously, a lot of football left to be played, but no matter how you look at it, and you brought it up, Mize, they can go a bunch of different directions. And we know Poles not perfect, but he's been pretty smart. I think my opinion here, if they decide to move off Everflus, which would be the right move, they're in a position to really turn this program around. I mean, this is better than the Lions rebuild. This is better than the Texans rebuild, better than the Seahawks rebuild from a couple years ago. They've got more ammunition than all those teams did. And if they use it smartly, which I think Poles has a strong chance of doing, they could be back in contention before too much longer.